Its purpose is to decide on applications for variances or special exceptions from the zoning ordinance, appeals of decisions of the zoning official, and applications for conditional use permits under the zoning ordinance. As a board of the city, we welcome all testimony. We make our decisions based on the facts and evidence allowed under city code presented in open meeting. If the proceedings become lengthy, we may ask that testimony be focused on new facts or evidence not already presented. We ask that if you wish to speak, please stand and state your name and address for the record. And we ask that the proceedings be orderly. When you are testifying, please address your remarks to the board. We are an independent board of citizens and not a part of the city administration. We are served in our efforts by the city attorney and staff members of the Planning and Zoning Division of the Development Services Department. The order of proceedings for each application will be an oral statement summarizing the issues and procedural steps presented by planning staff, followed by testimony and evidence presented by the applicant. The chair will then open public hearing, during which any member of the audience wishing to speak for or against the appeal may testify. When the public comment has been received, the public hearing will close. The board will then give the applicant and city staff an opportunity to present closing summaries and arguments. Finally, the board will discuss the issues and evidence and make a decision. All right, call the meeting to order. Roll call, please, Rachel.
Paul Mathis.
Present.
Marty Raymakers.
Here.
Jenna Sheriff.
Here.
Dan Wunschel.
Here.
Lisa Unick.
Here.
Okay, item 2, adopt the agenda.
So moved. I'll move that we adopt the agenda.
Okay, we don't need a second, obviously. Approval of the minutes from the May 5th, 2020 meeting. Tricia, do you have?
Well, I have to interrupt you. I mean, we still have to have a roll call on adopting the agenda.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
After 12 years, you'd think.
Well, it's because of the Zoom call.
Okay.
Okay, so to adopt the agenda, Unick,
Yes.
Mathis,
Yes.
Raymakers,
Yes.
Sheriff,
Yes.
Wunschel.
Yes.
All right. Meeting minutes.
Yes. We made a change to the minutes. I think we sent out a copy. Yeah, we sent out a copy to everybody ahead of the meeting. The change is highlighted. It's on page 3. And so we're asking you to approve the minutes as we have amended them.
Okay. I'll motion for approval.
Second.
Mathis,
Yes.
Sheriff,
Yes.
Raymakers,
Yes.
Wunschel,
Yes.
Unick.
Yes.
All right. Can you get us back to the agenda? I didn't print that off. I was following you. All right. Item 4, variance 4.1, Vance Jorgensen, 1919 4th Street Southwest.
Okay, I'm bringing Vance in as a panelist here.
Okay.
I have included the memo that you sent out, and I have his photos at the end of the separate memo. Which one would you like to see first?
Staff report.
Okay.
Before you begin, Tricia, I wanted to make sure that Vance has been able to get in. Can you hear us, Vance?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Jorgensen is requesting a variance to Title 1216-3G1 to allow construction of a fence that's 8 feet tall in the Z2 suburban zoning district. His property is located at 1919 4th Street Southwest. It's on Spring Lake. It is behind the shopping strip No, there's a saddlery store there. And then Jimmy John's is out front along the street, and the laundromat's there too. Rachel, can you roll to the next page? No, that's not the one I was looking for. You can roll back. Until recently, there was a large thicket of a large landscaped area between Mr. Jorgensen's property and the Tractor Supply property. There were some mature trees and some underbrush that Mr. Jorgensen refers to as a thicket. An owner of an adjoining property, not Tractor Supply, entered onto Mr. Jorgensen's property when he was not at home and cut down several mature trees and most of the thicket. This action eliminated the screen between Mr. Jorgensen's property and Tractor Supply, and now it's open for view. So Mr. Jorgensen is seeking approval to install an 8-foot fence along his east property line to replace the lost landscaping screen that he lost due to the action of the neighbor. And I'm going to find the page with the, there should be a page that has the zoning map on it. That's not it. Mr. Jorgensen's property is unique because it's split between 2 zoning districts. The north side of the property is zoned Z4 multi-use district. There, that one. The back part of the property, or excuse me, the front part of the property is zoned Z4 multi-use district. The back part of the property is zoned Z2. So on this photo, where you see the pink area, he can put an 8-foot fence in that area. In the yellow area, he can only go up to 6 feet. He intends to fence that property. The issue at hand is whether or not the area in the yellow can have an 8-foot fence or whether it's going to be limited to 6 feet. We sent the application out to departments and city utility providers for their comment. The city engineer did notify us that there are 2 10-foot utility easements abutting the east property line of Mr. Jorgensen's property. The easement agreements were included in your packet, and they do expressly prohibit trees, shrubbery, and permanent improvements or structures within the easement. We believe that we wanted to remind you that you cannot grant a variance that would violate the terms of an existing easement. The city engineer noted that he would not object to an 8-foot fence as long as it's placed outside of the easement and at least 10 feet from the east property line. And we did discuss it with Mr. Jorgensen, and he is okay with an 8-foot fence that's at least 10 feet away from the property line. We sent the notice of the application out to the neighboring property owners within 350 feet. We received 2 comments. The first was from Mary Momberg. She and her husband own the property directly north of Mr. Jorgensen's property, where the strip mall and the Jimmy John's and the laundromat are located. And she noted her objection to the fence. Her comment was submitted through the city's web portal, and it was attached to your staff report. And then I had a phone call from Mike Momberg, Mrs. Momberg's husband. He also had concerns about the variance, and he said he planned on attending the board meeting. And I'm not sure if he's in attendance or not. We applied the 5 tests that are included in the zoning ordinance for evaluation of a variance. We haven't received or discovered any information that the variance would threaten neighborhood integrity or have a negative impact on neighboring properties. All of the properties around Mr. Jorgensen can put up an 8-foot tall fence. So while Mr. Jorgensen is limited to a 6-foot fence on a portion of his east property line, Tractor Supply on the other side of the fence, they're also constrained by a 10-foot easement, but they could put up an 8-foot fence. Mr. Jorgensen's limited to 6 feet. So we do believe that the first criteria has been met. Regarding the second criterion, we believe that the application does not meet this test. Now keep in mind that the application was for a 8-foot fence on the property line. That would place the fence within the storm sewer easement that provides overflow for Spring Lake and Briarstone Lake. Keeping the easement unobstructed is critical to the city's maintenance of the storm sewer. Therefore, it's our opinion that the application that came in did not meet this test. However, if the fence is placed outside that 10-foot easement, the application would be met, or the criteria would be met. The third test is the reasonable return test. We believe that the property has value now and would continue to have value if the variance is not granted. So we don't believe that that test has been met. The fourth test has to do with a unique characteristic on Mr. Jorgensen's property that doesn't impact neighboring properties. The subject property is bisected by the 2 zoning districts. I believe that it is either the only or only one of 2 properties in Mason City that are split between 2 zoning districts. And the only way to access the property, the residential use, is to go through the non-residential part of his property. These are self-created issues, and they aren't a result of a unique characteristic of the property. They come from Mr. Jorgensen's desire to construct the house in that location. Because of that, we don't believe that the application meets the hardship test. Again, a hardship needs to be something that is inherent in the property that prevents Mr. Jorgensen from using his property in the same way his neighbors can use their property without the variance. The fifth test has to do with the makings of the hardship. In this case, we don't believe that hardship exists. So in this case, the test has not been met. You could also make the argument that the test is not applicable. You have 4 alternatives. You can approve the variance without conditions. You can approve the variance with conditions. You can table it pending additional action, or you can deny the application. Because the application does not meet all of the hardship tests, we cannot recommend that the application be approved. In addition, approving the application as it was submitted would violate the terms of the storm sewer easement in the project area. Now, as I've noted, Mr. Jorgensen has indicated that he is agreeable to putting a fence, an 8-foot fence 10 feet away from the property line. And so if you do decide to approve the variance, we're asking you to do that with the condition that the fence be placed outside the storm sewer easement. Your decision needs to include a finding of fact and a substantiation for the decision. If you vote to grant the variance, it needs to include a statement that the criteria outlined in the ordinance have been met, expressions for the reasons the criteria have been met if they're not included in the staff report, and an explicit statement of the variance that's being granted. We have provided proposed motions for approval and denial in the packet. If you choose to approve the application, you'll need to state the reasons for approval. Now, just as a reminder, the application with a relocated fence does meet the public interest test. It's just the issue with the hardship test. Mr. Jorgensen had, you all should have received the photos that we sent that I inadvertently left out of the packet. Those are provided by Mr. Jorgensen. If you want to see those, let Rachel know. We'll throw them up on the screen. And then Mr. Jorgensen also submitted an email. It was an email from me notifying him about the utility easement that he was not aware of. And it was actually, he had had the property surveyed and the surveyor didn't even include it on the survey, and his response to that. And he had asked that that be provided to you guys. It was very late today when he asked that. So we've got it up here so you guys can take a look at that. We did discuss it with Mr. Jorgensen, explain that we couldn't revise the recommendation. But you know, like, as we said, we can't recommend that it be approved because it doesn't meet the hardship test. If you do decide to approve the application, we're asking you to do that with the condition that the fence be placed outside the outside of the utility easement. Are there any questions?
Well, I'm not going to say I don't understand. Hey, so can I ask a question right now?
Sure.
Okay, so I went and looked at the property, and I know that some tests are met and some were not, but I didn't really see, like, in that commercial area any harm where there's just like a higher fence really going close to the lake. It doesn't really harm anybody. It doesn't harm, in my view, I didn't see how it affected Tractor Supply or the mini mall people or anybody.
And we don't, unfortunately, we don't have a common sense test. And I don't disagree with you. And that's the thing I think is kind of frustrating Mr. Jorgensen. And to me, it's just an odd situation where he can't put up an 8-foot fence, but Tractor Supply can put up an 8-foot fence, and the Mombergs can put up an 8-foot fence, but he can't put up an 8-foot fence. And when you have a property line with no easement, it literally was, they could, Tractor Supply could have that fence on the property line, on their side of the property line, but Mr. Jorgensen couldn't have it on his side of the property line. But unfortunately, that's the box that we operate within. So.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll move to Mr. Jorgensen.
Folks, can you see me or hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. I couldn't imagine that I would be doing anything like this back in February before I went on vacation. I went on vacation, I got back, and Mike Momberg had come on and cut my thicket. And so this thicket was there before I bought my property in 1998, and it provided a natural wooded barrier between my property and the semi-truck loading and unloading dock at Tractor Supply Company. And so I got back, and then it was wide open. So now the semi-trucks come in, their headlights shine right on my bedroom window, and I never had that issue before. And because it would be a long time before a thicket like that could be established, I need to put up a opaque, solid privacy fence so I can have some peace from the activity that I previously enjoyed for all these years that was there before I built the house back in 2002. So I did have a bit of a surprise. I was surprised when I got the email from Tricia that there was the storm sewer easement, and I needed to have a few days to find my abstract and take a look at that, and sure enough, there it is. So I wrote her back and I said, yeah, she said she'd recommended if I could pull it back 10 feet. And so I've agreed to do that. So I have to put up something because I need to have some peace from the trucks that are operating next door. And so the question is that you folks are going to have to decide, because I'm going to be putting up a fence one way or the other 10 foot back. And so the question is, do I put it up for the north 21 feet of that fence is 8 foot, and the remainder of the height is 6 foot, so it'll have a jog in it, or do I just put the whole thing up at 8 feet? It's true that the only ones that are going to see that fence as a practical matter would be if you're standing in the concrete lot or dock of Tractor Supply or myself. It's not going to be readily visible to anyone else unless they're looking from a long ways away. So I'd entertain questions at this point.
Mr. Jorgensen, before we do that, we have to do a public hearing.
I see.
And then
Very well.
We'll have comments from the board again, and then go with a motion. Is that all you have for right now?
Yes, for now, sure.
Okay. Steve, do we have anybody for a public hearing?
We do have 4 people in the waiting room. If any of those individuals would like to speak on this application, if you could use the raise hand feature on your Zoom client, and then I will promote you to a panelist. No one has raised their hand, Mr. Chairman, so we can go ahead.
All right, I'll close public hearing. Comments from the board? I have one. Have you talked with Tractor Supply, Mr. Jorgensen, about this?
No.
The only reason I'm saying it is because if they build one, then the good side of the fence gets to face your direction. So just a minor, more humorous than anything, but I'm sure if you put up a fence, you're going to finish it on both sides. I don't know, but
The answer is yes. It's a top quality composite Trex fence. It looks the same on both sides. It's
oh, great then.
top quality, very decorative both sides.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyone else have any questions from the board?
If he would talk with Tractor Supply, and if they're able to build it on their side, would his lot would it seem like it's 10 feet bigger then, since we have to move it due to the storm sewer?
Yeah, it probably would.
Okay.
And there would have to be an opening in the fence because it couldn't cross the easement. So there would be that opening.
And
I
if
don't
I'm
know
not
that they-
mistaken, the 10 feet easement is on the Tractor Supply side of the line as well, right?
Oh,
Yeah, there are two 10-foot easements, so it's 20 feet altogether.
Right, I was looking at the aerial and their pavement more or less goes up to the property line. So they would have to lose 10 feet of their pavement along that line, which they're probably not willing to do.
Oh, because then the trucks might not be able to get in and out if they have to go back another 10 feet.
right.
That could
They don't
be.
have any real they don't have any real motivation to build a fence. They don't need to.
No,
Yeah.
where I was going with it is just from the aspect of if they build it, then generally people are doing one-sided fences, but
Oh,
that's the only reason I was going with it. But I know Mr. Jorgensen has built some stuff before and does a pretty good job with it. So, all right. Any other questions? Do we have a motion? I'll make a motion. I can find it. Yeah. Hold on a minute. I got to get a bigger version. Bear with me a second here. Or maybe not.
well, someone could read it for you, even though it's
Well,
your motion.
Yeah,
I can make a motion too, Phil, if you want, I can read it.
go with it if you would, please.
Yeah, okay, I'll make a motion for approval of the application. I move to adopt the staff report as the board's findings and to approve the application by Vance Jorgensen for variance to title 12-16-3.G.1 to allow construction of a fence in the Z2 suburban zoning district that is 8 foot tall for the following reasons. The approval is subject to the condition that the fence be placed outside the 10-foot storm sewer easement abutting the east property line of the subject property. Approval of the application is effective immediately.
I'll second it. Thank you, Marty. Rachel,
Yeah,
having a,
unmuting. Okay, Raymakers,
Yes.
Mathis,
yes.
Sheriff,
Yes.
Winchell,
Yes.
Munich.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Jorgensen. You're welcome to stay on or exit at your leisure.
Thank you, folks, for your time and attention. Much appreciated.
All right. Oops. Let's go to item 5.1, Katie Thorson, 1032 North Georgia.
Is Katie in the waiting room?
You were muted
All right,
before, Susan.
I was muted. Among the attendees, Brittany, Jake, James, or John, who's going to be, is it Brittany?
Please raise your hand.
Okay, I will go ahead and promote you, Brittany, to panelist. And Brittany, we've got you in the panel here. Can you unmute yourself and let us know if you're here?
Sorry, it took me a minute to unmute myself. I am Katie Thorson.
Okay.
I thought that was strange for a second, but for work we use another account, so I bet this pulled it up automatically. So I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
Not a problem.
Okay.
Tricia.
Okay. Ms. Thorson is requesting a special exception to Title 1210-8, Table 1, to allow an addition onto her house. The house is located at 1032 North Georgia Avenue. It is a very interesting neighborhood. The street there is very narrow, and it's platted as a narrow street, and it's paved as an even more narrow street. The lots along the street are all oddly shaped. The lots on the east side of the street are double frontage lots, and the side on Georgia is actually the backyard, and then the houses on the west side of the street, where Ms. Thorson is, start at the south as very shallow lots, and then they deepen, but they don't get very deep as you move north on the street toward the water plant. The addition would be a two-stall attached garage. There's already an existing detached garage that would be demolished. The minimum front setback is 25 feet, and the addition would be 19.67 feet from the front property line. So there's a 5.33 foot encroachment. This is a special exception. We notified the property owner or the neighboring property owners and did not get any negative comments. Actually, didn't get any comments at all. We sent it out for review by the city departments and utility providers, and we didn't receive any negative comments or requests to conditions of approval. The special exceptions are analyzed using 7 different tests. The first test has to do with whether or not the setback reduction is necessary because of exceptional conditions on the lot. We believe that this lot is an exceptional condition. The lot's trapezoid in shape, and the average depth is 92 feet. When you apply the minimum front and rear yard setbacks, the available buildable envelope on the lot is very small. And in addition, the North Georgia Avenue right-of-way is only 24 feet wide. So a lot of the homes along the street were set further back to create, to give the illusion of having what you would find on a normal street, where you have a wider street, the boulevard, and the sidewalks before you get to the private property. So we believe that the first criterion has been met. We haven't received any or discovered any information that indicates that the exception would be detrimental to public health and safety, so we believe the second criterion has been met. We haven't received or discovered any information that indicates the exception will have a detrimental impact on the properties in the neighborhood. This is a significant investment in the home, and it'll enhance the neighborhood and help with property values in the area. So the third test has been met. The fourth test has to do with the impact on the developability of the surrounding properties. This neighborhood is fully developed, and we don't believe that if the exception is granted, it would negatively impact the potential for redevelopment in the area. So test 4 has been met. Test 5 addresses the public services and utilities. And we know that the utilities are going to be extended from the house into the addition. The drainage on the lot is not going to change. The garage is going to be largely built on an area that's already an impermeable surface. And the garage is not going to create additional traffic along North Georgia Avenue. So we believe the 5th criterion has been met. The 6th criterion asks whether or not the rest of the development on the lot will conform to the zoning ordinance. It will. And the 7th test asks or addresses how this complies with the comprehensive plan. The purpose of the comprehensive plan is to foster orderly development that's profitable for the property owner and that utilizes city services in an efficient and cost-effective manner. We believe that the development is similar to what is proposed to the type of development that was envisioned by the comprehensive plan, so we believe that that criterion has been met. Because all 7 of the criteria have been met, we're requesting that the application be approved. You can approve it, deny it, or table it. we're asking for 2 conditions on approval. The first would be that the construction shall conform with the site plan submitted with the application. And the second condition is that all applicable local, state, and federal regulations be complied with. There's a motion to approve and a motion to deny in your packet. If you choose to deny the application, you'll need to state the reasons why, because they are not included in the staff report. Are there any questions?
Hearing none, Mrs. Thorson.
I don't know that I can add anything. I mean, I'm really looking forward to building my garage. Yeah. The current garage will sit back further than the existing garage by quite a bit. And I believe it's a significant improvement to the property, and I'm making a significant investment in this home. It was actually my grandmother's home, and I'm making some renovations.
All right. Anything else? Steve, do we have anybody for a public hearing on this?
We still have 3 attendees in the waiting room. If anyone who's participating in the meeting would like to make a comment on this application, will you please use the raise hand feature of your Zoom client? And I see none, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we'll close public hearing. Comments from the board? Hearing none. Recommendation? I actually have one in front of me. I'll move to adopt the staff report as the board's findings and approve the application by Katie Thorson for the special exception to Title 12-10-8, Table 1, to allow construction of an addition to a freestanding house in an edge yard disposition in the Z2 suburban district that encroaches 5.33 feet into the required 25-foot front setback for the reasons stated in the staff report. Approval is subject to the following conditions. Construction shall conform to the site plan submitted with the application. All applicable local, state, and federal regulations shall be complied with. Approval of the application is effective immediately.
Second.
Thank you. Rachel?
Mathis,
Yes.
Sheriff,
Yes.
Rainmakers,
Yes.
Wunschel,
Yes.
Unick.
Yes.
Great, thank you, Katie. Again, you're welcome to stay with us or exit at your leisure.
Thank you very much.
All right, 5.2, Larry Carmody, excuse me, 2350 12th Street Northeast.
Could I have the individual in the waiting room that's here for that project? Jake, James, or John, could you raise your hand and I'll promote you? All right, Jake.
Are we ready?
We've got you as a participant. Jake, can you hear us? Could you unmute and let us know that you're here? Yeah, I see that you're unmuted, but we're not able to hear you.
Hello?
Hello?
Do we have Jake yet?
Like I say, we've got him in the group and the system says he's unmuted, but we're unable to hear him.
I had to switch my microphone. That's what I had to do, so maybe try that.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Yay!
All right, Tricia.
Okay, Mr. Hackett is representing Larry Carmody. He's requesting a special exception, which would allow construction of a freestanding house in an edge yard disposition in a Z1 zoning district that encroaches 35 feet into the required side setback on the west and 36.5 feet into the required side setback on the east. The property is located at 2350 12th Street Northeast. The house, there's an existing detached accessory structure there. The house would actually be in addition to that structure. It would be located 15 feet from the west property line and 13.5 feet from the east property line. The minimum side setback in the Z1 agriculture district is 50 feet. There's a location map in your packet. You can see there, this lot is very narrow and very long. It is a legal lot. It was in this configuration on July 1st of 2020, and therefore it is buildable. But it's going to be a challenge because the lot is not wide enough to accommodate any development without approval from the Board of Adjustment. We sent this out to the relevant city departments and utility providers. There weren't any requested conditions of approval and no adverse comments were received. The city engineer did note that the house would have to be connected to the city's water main. In addition, the driveway approach would have to be paved. The water extension and the paving will require a permit from the city engineer's office. We sent notices out to the neighboring property owners and we haven't received any comments back for or against the application. And I'll run through the tests quickly. With the, as far as the exceptional shape, you know, the special exception needed because of exceptional characteristics on the property. We definitely believe that the shape of the lot is exceptional. It's only 66.5 feet wide and it's 1,322 feet deep. And as I said, there's no way to develop on this lot without approval of some sort from the Board of Adjustment. We don't believe that the exception would be detrimental to public health and safety. We don't believe that it would be injurious to the free use and enjoyment of other properties in the immediate vicinity. There is some undeveloped area in the neighborhood. We don't have any indication or belief that granting this special exception would impede the developability of those properties. The developer is going to be responsible for installing all the required utilities. There are services in the area to support the home and they are adequate to support the home. The house will create additional traffic, but the impact is going to be negligible and will not exceed the carrying capacity of 12th Street Northeast. As regards to the zoning ordinance, the house will meet all of the requirements of the zoning ordinance, and we do believe that the special exception would not impair the general purpose and intent of the comprehensive plan. There are motions to approve and deny. Oh, I skipped something. We're recommending that it be approved because it does meet each of the 7 criteria. We're recommending that it be approved subject to 4 conditions. The first is that the house is connected to the city's water distribution network in a manner consistent with the city's standard specifications and approved by the city engineer. The second is that the driveway approach be paved in a manner consistent with the city's standard specifications and approved by the city engineer. The third is that all work conform to the site plan submitted with this application. And the fourth is that all work adhere to the relevant local, state, and federal regulations. There are motions to approve and deny in the packet. Are there any questions?
I have a question. This is Jake. Is regarding the concrete approach from the driveway. There is an existing driveway that's been there for 50 plus years. I was just curious as to why they want it changed now.
The city's ordinances require that driveway approaches be paved. And because you're doing new development, that's why the city engineer is requiring that it be brought up to code. Now, okay. It's just the approach, so it's just the area between the paved surface on 12th Street Northeast and the front property line. We're not requiring that the entire driveway be paved, just that that
Nope.
approach there.
Understood. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Hackett, the applicant, anything
Yes,
you'd
sir.
like to, anything you'd like to add?
No, this has been a family home for 40 plus years, and my wife and I would like to move ourselves here to raise our grandkids here and put my father-in-law on the property so that we can take care of him till it's his turn.
Okay, thank you. Steve, do we have anyone in the waiting room?
We have 2 persons in the waiting room. If anyone would like to speak on this particular application, will you please raise your hand using the raise hand feature in your Zoom client, please? And I see none.
Great, thank you. All right, I will close public hearing. Comments from the board? Hearing none, motion?
I move to adopt the staff report as the board's findings and to approve the application by Jason W. Hackett for a special exception to Title 12-9-8. Table 1 to allow construction of a freestanding house in an edge yard disposition in the Z1 agriculture zoning district that encroaches 35 feet into the required side setback on the west and 36.5 feet into the required side setback on the east for the reasons stated in the staff report. Approval is subject to the following conditions. The house shall be connected to the city's water distribution network in a manner consistent with the city's standards, specifications, and approved by the city engineer. The driveway approach shall be paved in a manner consistent with the city's standard specifications and approved by the city engineer. All work must conform to the site plan submitted with this application. All work must adhere to all relevant local, state, and federal regulations. Approval of the application is effective immediately.
Second.
Second.
I don't know who chimed in first, but
I don't know.
I think we have a second and a third.
okay. I'm even all right with that.
I heard Lisa before I heard Marty. I don't know if it makes any difference.
I don't think we're counting points here, so.
Okay.
All right.
Sheriff,
Yes.
Unick,
Yes.
Mathis,
Yes.
Raymakers,
Yes.
Winchell.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Hackett. You're welcome to stay with us or exit at your leisure.
Thank you.
All right, 5.3 Zane Properties, 1303 and 1313 North Federal Avenue.
Okay. Oh, wait for him to get in.
Before you start, I'm going to go ahead and I've promoted James Prince. James, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Go ahead, Tricia.
Okay, Zane Properties is requesting a special exception to Title 12-12-19, Table 1 of the zoning ordinance that would allow construction of an addition on Northside Liquors. The building is classified as a small box form. It's located in the Z4 zoning district. The proposed building location would be 3 feet from the, would encroach 3 feet into the required 25-foot rear yard setback. There are 2 addresses on the application, 1303 and 1313 North Federal. There are going to be some parcels that are combined, and then a common property line is going to be moved as part of the project. They don't have any impact on the request. Northside Liquors is going to demolish a portion of their building and construct an addition on the building to the north. The maximum rear setback is 25 feet, so a special exception is required to authorize the smaller setback. We sent this out to the city, the relevant city and departments and utility providers. We asked for comments. We didn't receive any adverse comments or requests to conditions of approval. This has been to the Development Review Committee for concept plan review and for For the concept plan review, if the board approves the special exception, they'll come back for a final site plan review. The city engineer did note that there are unused water and sanitary sewer services on the property that will need to be disconnected at the mains. There are more connections than there are buildings there, so they need to be disconnected at the main. They also noted that the parking lot proposed would need to be connected to the storm sewer, and that any unused storm sewer connections would need to be disconnected at the main. New curbing will be required on North Federal Avenue, where the driveway approach is going to be removed. And currently, there's been some parking. Well, there's occasional parking along the south property line on 13th Street Northeast. And the original site plan that we saw did show diagonal parking there. If they decide they want to put parking there, they will have to close the driveway approaches and install new curbs there. We notified all the property owners within 350 feet of the exterior boundaries of the property. We haven't received any comments or any comments regarding the application. With regards to the exceptional shape or topography test, this property is in a neighborhood that's consistently platted with lots measuring approximately 56 feet wide and 132 feet deep. The lot is level. It has easy access from 13th Street Northeast and from North Federal. We were unable to identify any characteristic in this property due to the size, shape, topography, or soil conditions that create an exceptional circumstance that can only be remedied by a special exception. So we don't believe that the first criterion has been met. Regarding the public health and safety test, we haven't discovered any information that indicates that the exception would be a threat to public health and safety. We haven't received any information that indicates the proposed exception would impair the free use and enjoyment of neighboring properties or diminish their value. Regarding the impact it would have on the ability to redevelop in the neighborhood is fully developed. We haven't received or discovered any information that indicates the exception would negatively impact the ability to redevelop the neighborhood. Regarding the utilities and public services, we believe that there are adequate utilities on site. We don't believe that the addition would create an additional undue burden on public utilities and services. In addition, the additional floor area will not generate additional traffic to the site that can't be accommodated on the existing adjacent streets. The sixth test regarding the compliance with the zoning ordinance. This property will not conform to the requirements of the Z4 multi-use zoning district. In addition, housing a cooler was permitted on the building in 2017. At the time the cooler was installed, we were told that it was going to be a prefabricated cooler. Typically, a prefabricated cooler is considered personal property and not a part of the building. The contractor will lay down a slab and they will place the cooler on the slab, and basically it gets bolted to the building. Because it's considered personal property, we allow it to encroach into setbacks. However, the cooler addition that was added to Northside Liquors was actually placed within a structural addition to the building. And it should not have been allowed without authorization from the Zoning Board of Adjustment because it does encroach into the rear yard setback. The rest of the property will conform to the requirement of the Z4 district. We don't believe that that criterion has been met. And 7, regarding the comprehensive plan, we believe that this development would not impair the purpose and intent of the comprehensive plan. There are four options. We're recommending that, well, because the application does not meet each of the 7 criteria, we can't recommend that the application be approved. Should you decide to approve the application, we're recommending that it be approved subject to 2 conditions. And actually, there should have been a 3rd condition there, that it comply with the requests of the city engineer, and that inadvertently got left out. But that construction conformed to the site plan submitted with the application, and that all development on the site must conform to the applicable local, state, and federal regulations, which theoretically will capture the requirements of the city engineer. So I guess we don't need to include that. So there are motions to approve and motions to deny in your packet. If you choose to approve it, you need to state the reasons for approval. Are there any questions?
Hearing none, Mr. Prince? the
Yes, sir.
applicant? You're up.
Okay. On that cooler prefab, I guess I got to get clearness on that prefab. So it is bolted and it's so when we do this addition, it's going to be 16 feet. It's going to actually be another cooler 16 feet on that east side. So there's going to be a cooler as the 115. I guess it is a prefab that comes in a truck. We bolt stuff, but they put like metal on the outside of it, but literally didn't form it in. I mean, I guess that's why I'm kind of, I guess on that point, I was wondering is if you just put the cooler up, you can enclose it with metal and house it, or what? How is that considered? I guess.
Tricia, I'll punt that one to you.
Okay, I think I heard most of it. Mr. Prince is in a time warp. Typically, when you see cooler additions like that, the coolers are brought in, they're bolted, they don't have a roof structure over them, they don't have a wall structure around them. Now, my understanding is that the footprint of the building is not going to change with the exception of the addition. We're not requesting that cooler be removed. We're going to allow it to stay. And what you guys are focusing on is the addition that's shown on the site plan.
Correct. But that addition part, 16 foot, it's going to bring us way past 25 because 16 foot of that east side is going to be cooler. So it'd bring us in like, that's why I'm saying if the cooler was, we brought the prefab cooler in, we'd make regulations. You know what I'm saying? Because 16 foot of that wall, okay, so it's 63 across right now, but you got to go in 63, or you got to go 16 feet to the west because that's all going to be cooler. That back room right there is going to be all cooler on that east wall.
James, can you see the site plan that's up on the screen right now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. The addition that's on there, I got to zoom in. Okay, so the addition that's on there is about 22 feet from the rear property line. That's what you've requested the special exception for.
Correct. I guess
Okay.
he should have put the 16. I guess he should have put that cooler. He didn't put that cooler in the corner there. But yes, correct. So the site
So
plan
is the cooler going to be within the footprint of the addition that's shown on this site plan, or is it going to be outside that footprint?
it'd be inside that.
Then we're okay.
Okay.
As long as you don't get any closer to that rear property line
Correct.
than what's shown on this site plan, you're okay.
Correct. Okay. I was just saying that that's going to be cooler. I guess they should have put that in there because then we wouldn't be asking for this special. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
I think I know what you might be saying, but we're here. We'll just continue.
Okay.
All right, Steve, do we have anybody for public hearing?
There are no other attendees.
There are no other attendees. All right. We'll close public hearing. Comments from the board?
I like North End development.
I'll agree with that. Is the addition just being added, or are they redoing the outside of the whole building to be?
We're adding on. It'd be adding on to the existing building.
Okay, so there's no aesthetic stuff going on the outside of the existing?
No, sir.
Okay. Drive-through lane obviously stays in the same place, it looks like?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Lisa.
I move to adopt the staff report as the board's findings and to approve the application by Golsham Abbas for a special exception to Title 12-12-19, Table 1, to allow construction of an addition to a small box form in the Z4 multi-use zoning district that encroaches 3 feet into the required 25 feet rear setback for the following reasons that they meet our need for development in Mason City. This approval is subject to the following conditions. All construction must conform to the site plan submitted with the special exception application, especially noting the city engineer. And 2, all development on the site must conform to the applicable local, state, and federal regulations. Approval of the application is effective immediately.
I'll second that with a caveat to Tricia is, does that carry for the city engineer? We're good with that aspect now?
Yeah, because he always has the ability to just not sign off on the building permit until they agree to do it.
Right.
Right. I have to talk to him. Right.
Okay, second. Rachel?
Unick,
Yes.
Mathis,
Yes.
Raymakers,
Yes.
Sheriff,
Yes.
Wunschel.
Great, Mr. Prince, thank you for your time. I'd say contact Tricia tomorrow.
Yep, need to get back to work on the major site plan and the lot split and the boundary line adjustments and all that cool jazz, so.
Yes, ma'am. Have you got anything from Jerry yet?
Nope, I haven't. Rachel, have you gotten anything?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. I haven't had any contact with him, so.
Okay. I'll call tomorrow and find out.
Okay,
All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Yep.
sure thing.
All right, item 6, new business. Anything fun and exciting next month?
I have to say, I thought it was really fun to go drive to that North Georgia property because I was on the east side of town and it took me winding down these little roads and turning left and right. And I was like, where?
Yeah, there are some pockets of Mason City that are really interesting where we've got these little weird little, when you drive down them, they're like alleys.
Yeah, I thought it was an alley.
But they're paved. Yeah, there's and yeah, it's interesting. Just sometimes just take a drive around the little neighborhoods and we'll have.
So nothing on the agenda for next week or next month, excuse me?
We do have a special exception application currently
We do?
for a shed that is on the property line on 23rd Street Southwest.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one now.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that won't be till July 7th. A little bit late, not a lot later in the month, but not the first day.
Okay. Adjourn? Anything from anybody else?
I think we have to have a motion for adjourn and then I have to roll call.
A motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Everybody enjoy your week.
We do have to have a roll call on that motion, sorry.
Yep. Sorry. Okay, Mathis,
Yes.
who seconded? Was that Marty or Dan?
Yeah, it was me, and yes.
Okay. Thank you. Sheriff,
Yes.
Wunschel,
Yes.
Unick.
Yes.
Great. Thank
Thank
you.
you all.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
See ya.
Stay safe.